to Magny Cours, where we're all set for the second round of the 2022 Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS. A fantastic couple of races to open the championship at Brands Hatch. And now we've gone through free practice, pre-qualifying, and this is the first of the two qualifying sessions. This is going to set the grid for tonight's race that starts at 7:30 local time. And tomorrow we'll come back for qualifying for race 2, which will be earlier in the afternoon tomorrow. But look, nearly 24 degrees, a gentle breeze, track temperature climbing all the time. My name's Bruce Jones. Alongside I have John Watson. The stage is set. 20 minutes of qualifying coming up. Very quick fire.
Thank you, Bruce. Yes, it will be quick fire. And just looking down at the temperatures that we had here on Friday, the main notable difference is that the track temperature has gone up significantly between when they ran at lunchtime on Friday and then ran early evening. So that will have a bearing. Now, whether it's a good bearing or a bad bearing, we'll find out. But the kind of times that we're sort of going to be looking for are going to be the low 1:36s. And if somebody gets it right, a clear lap, fresh rubber, could be into the 1:35s.
Well, let's wait and see on that. But what we can tell you, they ended with their tails up when they left Brands Hatch. The number 89 Acodis ASP Mercedes team, Timo Bogoslawski and Raffaele Marcello, top of the tables here, but they're chased really hard by the Audis, and the crowd bolstered by number 46, the car you see in the middle of your screen, Valentino Rossi. He's got his own stand, his own retail stand in the paddock, doing great business. Memorabilia with 46 written all over it. You can't avoid it. It was a Brands Hatch. It was a sellout. It's going to be a sellout here in Magny Cours. So we came here with 25 cars. Alas, John, we lost one yesterday. The Jota McLaren is no more for this race meeting. Went off on the exit of Estoril, as far as I understand. Yes, I don't know quite where the incident began, but certainly it ended up on the outside of the corner. Damage, significant damage to the car. The principle of why the car cannot race here now this weekend is that the cradle that I believe holds or locates the gearbox was damaged in such a way that the repair, they couldn't be comfortable that the repair would withstand 2 1-hour races, let alone the qualifying sessions. Reluctantly, Jota withdrew the car, and it's very shame because that car with Rob Bell and Oliver Wilkinson was a car that would certainly come into play. It did here last year, if you may remember. That was a very strong runner when Ben Barnicoat was driving it. He actually led that first race. In fact, looking through last year, he led quite a few. Now, a team that needs to pull up its socks and get going is the Dynamic Motorsport team with their Porsches. We know the cars are good, but so far here at Magny Cours, it's been all about one Mercedes, that's the 89 car, chased by yesterday evening by a trio of WRT Audis. Charles Weerts and Dries Van Toor, those multiple champions leading that charge, with Jean-Baptiste Simonard, Christopher Mies, second of the Audis and third fastest of the Audis. Sorry, just 2. And then the next Audi was Matthias Drudy. We're both big fans of his, John, for Car Collection, Tracer by Car Collection Motorsport. So Audi's right at the thick of things. Yeah, the one place, of course, they weren't able to secure. As you look on board with Valentino Rossi looking into the cockpit of car 46. Now, an interesting little sound bite or side bite is Valentino was struggling a little bit, particularly in that evening session when the sun was setting, and at particular parts of the circuit, you're driving straight into that. He's not accustomed to having sun in his eyes, because normally, in his history of a MotoGP, he's racing either under floodlights or under daylight. Exactly so. Well, the man who was fastest at Brands Hatch at the end, fastest in both the sessions here at Magny Cours, it's Raffaele Marcello. He's down in the pits with Gemma Scott.
Raffaele, we saw last night in pre-qualifying that you guys were topping the timings. Is that realistic expectation in this session?
I mean, we saw Audis really quick. I mean, we had 7 Audi in top 10. I mean, it will be a good battle for quali, so we'll see.
How are you finding the circuit here? We're seeing a lot of the track limits being pushed hard.
Yeah, it's not an easy one. I mean, it's a nice one because it's like quite fast and challenging. But yeah, for sure it's not easy for track limit, but it's the same for everyone. So yeah.
Thank you. Have a great session.
So Raffaele, super fast, looking cool and calm. Of course, he doesn't do qualifying until tomorrow morning for tomorrow afternoon's race. But Timo Bogoslawski has really stepped up another notch this year. Brilliant drive from him at Brands Hatch. He's the one going out to try and qualify in that Team Acodis ASP number 89 Mercedes. Lamborghini's here as well, just the one GSM Nova Marine coming out to play. Now, a driver who could also feature, Jim Pla, absolute star, and he's in a really strong lineup. This weekend he hasn't got Jules Gounon, who's down competing in the Bathurst 12 Hours, the Intercontinental GT World Challenge. So he's got a driver who was last at the very front end of this a long while ago, 2015, and that's Maximilian Goertz. So look out, this could be a real feature, the number 88 Mercedes.
Yes, Gounon down in Australia doing 12 hours around the Mammoth Bathurst racetrack. But Maxi Goertz, we know him from his days with Maxi Book, and they won lots of races. Max Goertz is still an active and a very successful racing driver, but fundamentally racing in his own nation in Germany as we go on board Sky Tempesta. The Mercedes-Benz, of course, they transferred from their Ferrari 488 over the last 2 seasons to the Mercedes-Benz. Still really, I think, coming to terms with a totally different style of turnkey GT3 car.
Yeah, they've both admitted it is a learning curve at the moment, and good thing well, here we go. You only have 20 minutes to go qualifying. You've got to make your own space on the circuit, and the number 26 Audi there doing precisely that with Gilles Magnus, a young Belgian racer on board. He's sharing with Nicolas Bier there, and looking to see what they can do. But you have to make your space, John. He's just
Indeed you do, and just looking at cars as they come into turn one, which is called Grand Courbe. In some of the support races, some of the competitors had 4 wheels not off the racetrack. They're on black stuff, which is, I don't know how far off the racing line. So all these incidents will be noted, and some lap times may well be deleted if there is too much abuse of track limit. We talk about it everywhere we go, but it has to be observed.
And in a qualifying session as quick fire as this, if you're going to abuse the track limits and you know you've exceeded them, you want to do that at the start of the lap so you can back off a little bit and try and get it right the next time around. Waiting for that first time to come on the board, and the best time we saw yesterday was set by Raffaele Marcello, 1 minute 36.136 seconds. You hinted, you hoped we might get into the 1 minute 35s. The lap length is 2.741 miles, that's 4.4 kilometres. It has a good flow, but you do need to abuse the curbs, but to a degree.
Yes, you can run the curb, but you've got to keep at least one set of your wheels, that's the inside set, basically inside that white line. That demarcates the limits around the racetrack. As we make our way, Matteo Drudi, who is one of the early drivers pushing hard, had been fastest overall in that middle sector. That time has now gone to Aurelius Panis and another Audi. So Audis are all over basically the top 10 as they go to record their first flying laps.
Well, the number 12, Matteo Drudi, that's one of 2 cars entered by a team new to this year, Tresor by Car Collection Motorsports, and he's attacking from the outset. You can see that Gilles Magnus had backed off and was passed in the background. There's the Sky Tempesta Racing Mercedes. Get used to that. Right, 1 minute 39.1, which was by the Mercedes, but Aurelian Panis has now gone to the top. 1 minute 37.6 seconds, and Vincent Voss, so many things to watch. Last weekend he was cheering his cars to victory in LMP2 at the World Endurance Championship on home turf at Spa-Francorchamps, so a very busy man indeed. But right now the busy men are out in the cockpits. Aurelian Panis trying to stretch his advantage at the top. He's put the first decent marker down, 1.25 seconds faster than the best of the rest, which is Giorgio Roda in the 56.
Yes, in a Porsche. Porsche have not shown particularly strongly at Brands Hatch. They were disappointing. They were sort of the bottom end of the top 10, middle of the top 15. They're looking to make an improvement, but on board with the man currently fastest. Aurelian Panis there, comes down through this. This is through what they call Nürburgring. It's a quick flick to the right, a flick to the left, and then this interminably long 180-degree corner. He takes a very late apex to straighten up the exit of that corner to then get the run all the way through 180, then up the hill into what is called Imola. This is a really challenging part of the racetrack, but very fulfilling and satisfying.
Right, it's closing in at the front. Nicolas Scholl has moved up into second place. He's a third of a second, just 0.3 of a second, in fact, down on Aurelian Panis. But the one we want to watch is the driver of car 32. It goes to top. It's Charles Wirtz. He wasn't a sprint champion for 2 years running for nothing at all. 1 minute 37.5. He's 0.061. That's nothing. But those top two, actually the top 5 are covered by 0.4 of a second down to Jim Pla in 5th place. But that was a good lap. But it's got to get better because now Matteo Drudi, with his second flying lap, has done 1 minute 37.4. He's on top.
Yeah, these times are still just under a second and a half away from what we saw Friday afternoon at lunchtime, then Friday evening. So track conditions may well not be as good as we saw on Friday. As there is the car, Timur Boguslawski, fastest overall, Sector 1. That's the purple indicator you see, Sector 1. So Boguslawski continues One up the hill, all the way through the sweeps, up into the chicane at Imola. Listen, listen, listen. Having to just be waiting all the time before he can get back on the throttle. Then into this corner called Chateau d'Eau. I don't know why they call it a castle water, but there we are. Then the run down to the Courbe de la Passerelle. Is only green in that middle sector, so the middle sector, nobody's got a purple on the screen. Anyway, this should be good enough for Timo. Oh, it looked a bit taily coming into that final chicane, but it still might be enough to go quickest overall.
No, it goes in 4th place, but Simon Gachet with his best time stays at the top of the charts for Saint-Luc. Number 11, sorry, Simon Gachet this year, traced by car collection. So it's Audi, a Ferrari from nowhere. Pierre-Alexandre Jean, who won the first race at Brands Hatch, put Ferrari into 3rd place, then the Mercedes of Timo Bogoslawski, then the Audis of Matthias Drudy, Jean-Baptiste Simonau, Gilles Magnus, Charles Weerts, Aurélien Panis. That takes you down to 9th place, so it's 7 Audis in the top 9.
The Ferrari was outstanding at Brands Hatch, won the first race, and just a joy for everybody to see a Ferrari. And how Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Aurélien Panis have adapted to this car was one of the great moments at Brands Hatch. Currently up to 3rd position. We've still got 12.5 minutes of the session remaining. Anything can happen. Bogoslawski has gone fastest sector 1.
We need to stay on car 11. Simon Gachet slowed it right down to get the ultimate blast through the chicane onto the start-finish straight, and he's going to push on. He's still got the fastest time, 1 minute 36.8, but a challenge is coming from Matthias Drudy. Teammate, they're both from Tracer by Car Collection. Of course, Timo Bogoslawski, his second flyer, starting to really wind it up.
Yeah, personal best sector 1, not quite as good in the sector 2. The previous lap, it was this part of the racetrack that he lost time. He had been fastest overall sector 1 and a personal best sector 2. Now he's on the back foot by a very small margin, but he needs to get that 89 Mercedes a little bit further up, backed out of it, so he's looking for track space. So now launches it once again through that final chicane.
Peter Schotthorst in 2nd place for Tempter Racing in, yes, an Audi, and the 11-12 Audis from Tracer by Car Collection. Well, that's absolutely ruined the lap for Matthias Drudy. That's so unfortunate, blocked by the Ferrari.
Yeah, and that time you will never make up, so just take it easy and start all over again. Charles Weerts, keep an eye on him. Charles Weerts has gone quickest overall, and before I could say keep an eye on him, wow, look at that 8 Mercedes, wow, what was it doing? Getting off track like that. That was the 88 of Jim Plan, Maximilian Goertz.
Yeah, well, Jim had been winding that up, but because he hasn't got a decent lap and he's down to 15th place, and look, the clock, we're nearly halfway through this 20-minute qualifying session. It goes in a flash, John.
Valentino Rossi, you may ask, well, where is the Italian in the 46 Audi? Well, right now, he's dropping bit by bit. He's only 18th quickest. Best laps are 138.2. And that is 1.7 seconds away from the fastest lap, which now goes to this car, Charles Weerts.
Charles Weerts and his teammate Dries van Toorn looking on from the Team WRT pits. This is an advantage of a whisker under 1/3 of a second. Neat and tidy, which is the hallmark of Charles, the line he takes around the circuit. 1 minute 36.5 seconds. What was the fastest yesterday? 1 minute 36.1. So they're closing in all the time. That little fumble from Jim Flahr, he should have been challenged for the top 5. He's down in 15th place. Just shows how close it is. 9/10 of a second cover the top 11. Remember Matthias Drudy, he was fastest not so long ago. He's down in 11th place.
Well, just think, I mean, we've seen a number of cars. Bogoslawski down in 10th place in the car that was fastest in both those sessions on Friday. In that case, the times were set by Raffaele Marcello, not by Timo Bogoslawski. But there's very little to pick and choose. A couple of tenths a second in both sessions between Raffaele Marcello and Bogoslawski.
How do you play this session? Number of drivers, including Charles Weerts, now in the pits. I think we've got 5, 6 cars out of the 24 cars in the pits. Right, the span of time at the moment. Hugo Delacour, we saw him just getting a little bit in the way in that red and yellow AF Corsa Ferrari, is bottom of the charts, and Valentino Rossi has parked it, not where he wants to be. Where is it on the circuit?
I think that might be somewhere in the rounds of Estoril. It's a very wide.
Well, he's deep in the gravel. What sort of stoppage are we going to have? Will there be a stoppage? He rose to 15th place, gained a few positions. John, let's look what happened.
Oh, oh dear, that's a big hit. That's a big hit on the driver's side for Valentino Rossi. Lost the car coming through the left-hand Grand Courbe. Here it goes, the back comes around, and he's sitting there thinking, oh no, and oh! I could feel it sitting in the commentary booth. It knocked the wind out of me.
Yeah, well, the good thing was it actually went inside on, not front on or rear on, so that helped spread the load against that tyre wall, but just a little too deep, just too shallow into the corner down at Grand Curve, into the entrance to Estoril, and that corner keeps on turning right, and he did.
It was a very, very sudden snap oversteer that caught out Valentino Rossi. So looking into the WRT Audi team pits, they will be wondering what's going to happen now, because one might assume that'll be a red flag to remove the 46 to safety. Where that car is vulnerable. If another car went off in a similar area, there would be clearly a collision, so they need to clear that car, but the clock's still ticking down, just under 8.5 minutes remaining.
I was just going to say, look at the top of the screen, almost everybody now in the pit lane. Here's the red flag, so the clock stops. They'll have 8 minutes 23 seconds when the session resumes, but of course that will involve them coming out of the pit lane, winding up for one lap to get some heat in the tyres, but they may only have 3 laps to really go and set a flying lap. And 1 minute 36.517 seconds is the hallmark, the benchmark set by Charles Weerts.
But some person's misfortune, maybe somebody else's good fortune. So there will be a delay, maybe 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. So let's look and see. And there, I mean, it's so quick. He almost, you can see he corrected it. Then the car went on the left-hand side. Here it goes. Watch the back of the car. Now it's gone.
And the worst thing there, John, you're already unweighting the car one way to go through the left, and it flicks to the right, and at that point he was already loose, and to capture that. So for his many fans around the circuit, they'll be hoping the car can be fixed. Providing it can, he'll probably drop to the back of the pack. Surely people go faster, but the good news is there is the man, Valentino, out of the car. The dock is out of the car, but the car very much out of the session.
Yeah, currently in 19th position. That's the end of their session. They're not going to get that car back out again. And you can see it's well embedded in the gravel, so the marshals come along and have a chat to Valentino, and I mean he will want to get that car removed, but because it went in sideways, well, the damage is spread across the entire length of the car. I mean, just look, potentially damage to the rear wing and the rear wing mounts, to the suspensions on the left hand side, to wheels and tires. That car will need maybe 2 hours of good TLC to get it prepared for this evening's race.
Now, don't forget, of course, we've got the pro entries, we've got the Silver Cup for the young drivers, and this is the one that's always featuring in the Pro-Am class. It's Louis Michiels sharing with Andrea Bertolini. Louis, 22nd fastest, 2 and a bit seconds down on the ultimate pace so far, but you sometimes it gets obscured sometimes, battles within the overall battle, and Louis Michiels and Andrea Bertolini have been mighty in the Pro-Am class. 6
Audis in the top 8. You've got a Ferrari and you've got a Mercedes. Where is the 89 Mercedes? Well, Timo Boguslawski was probably going to go out and do another run. He currently is in 10th position. He may prove to be a beneficiary because he would have learned from what he's done. The team will go through information they have. They'll speak to Boguslawski and say, what's the car doing? Where can we pick up time? And that's only one of a number of cars that will benefit. An unfortunate moment for Valentino Rossi.
So very busy out on the track. And the people probably with the biggest smile on their face will be the 32 crew, because Charles Weerts is provisional pole. But let's hear from his teammate, Dries van Toor.
Dries, it's blazing hot down here in the pit lane, but that doesn't seem to be holding you guys back at all.
No, I mean, Charles did a great job so far. He really put his lap together, and I mean, yeah, at the moment it's sweet and clear. Hopefully we can keep it there, and for sure the second set everyone will improve again, so we just have to lay again another good time down. So let's see.
Certainly seems to be an Audi track.
Yeah, I mean, I think our history here has been quite okay. I think the Mercedes is also quite strong here. I think we'll be evenly matched during the weekend, but for the moment we got the upper hand, and hopefully we can, like I said, keep it well for our second set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, always good to hear from Dries van Toor, of course. So, for the drivers who are out in this session, they are the only drivers of the two driver pairings to be out in this session. They're going to define the grid for race one. Their teammates will do tomorrow. So that's why Dries van Toor, Raffaele Marciello are standing in the pit garage just wearing T-shirts. So for the drivers who are going to try and define the grid for tonight, John, they've got to focus. They've got 8 and a bit minutes to play with. But what did you see when you're looking at Valentino's car being removed?
The car was being pulled backwards, and I saw the front wheels rotating, but I didn't see the rear wheels rotating, indicating to me that when the car came to a standstill, it was still obviously in gear, and Valentino hasn't been able to release that gear. So pulling back against putting a pressure onto the gearbox, just a little issue that I think the team will have picked up on as well, and they will want to go through that gearbox to ensure that in removing the car, it hasn't done maybe something that could lead to an issue later in the weekend. Thomas Drouet, by the way, wouldn't have expected it, but credit to him, quickest overall of the Mercedes, ahead of the 89, the sister car, with Timo Boguslawski. But such a good effort. There is the Audi now. It's going to be craned away, and we can't yet see what damage there might be. Marginal, maybe, or maybe a bit more on the left-hand side.
Rear wheels were turning at that point, so maybe they managed to knock it out of gear. Right, McLarens at the moment, we've got 3 of them here, having lost to Jota, and it's the Maldonado car that is 12th, and therefore the best place. The next one down is Miguel Ramos, and 111 is bringing up the rear. That's Patrick Krupinski. He shares with former Formula 1 racer Christian Kleen. JP Motorsport getting stuck in, and I must say, John, look at the livery on that car, black with the gold. Very, very smart indeed.
It's a spectacular livery. Sometimes spectacular liveries, when you see it in the paddock, it bounces out at you. But when you see it on a television screen or on camera, certain colours blend into the tarmac. And the colour that works best of all, apparently, this goes all the way back to the days of ELF when they were sponsoring motor racing, is that ELF blue with white. Those are well, there you go. The 25 Audi is an example. That is a great colour scheme in terms of having your car being on camera and being visually on camera.
And it's not always just judged on what happens on a sunny day. Now, Austrian racer Gerhard Twerese, GSM Nova Marine, new to the championship for a full season attack. And he is sharing with Isaac Tutumlu, but just to stress that Gerhard is the driver who's driving that right now in qualifying session number 1. The Austrian racer, he'll hand over to his Spanish colleague for tomorrow's qualifying tomorrow. But anyhow, now the car that won the first race, the opening round of the sprint series at Brands Hatch, with a 20-year-old and a 21-year-old on board. It's the Ferrari number 53, and that is Pierre-Alexandre Jean, 5th fastest time. Just managed to knit that in before the red flag came out when Valentino Rossi put the car in the gravel, his Audi into the gravel. Look, the clocks are moving.
Red flag again.
Red flag again. So did he go out too soon? That's
well,
a little question. I heard cars starting up in the background. Suddenly we had moving shot. This could be a more than a wrap knuckle, one feels, if they've gone out when the lights were red at pit exit. The red lights have now slowed Pierre-Alexandre Jean. Oh, this could be a real shame. They're desperately keen to get a fantastic result on home ground. We'll have to wait and see.
It would be unusual for a driver to re-enter the racetrack when it was still red. We don't know what we didn't see the car as it would travel down the pit lane. We saw it from a camera looking towards the pit lane exit. So whatever went wrong, clearly the track is still in a red condition.
But what we have, John, is 1, 2, 3. We've got about 7 cars that went out onto the circuit, and that's Charles Wirtz, Simon Gachet, Nicolas Scholl, all listed as pit out. But the car we saw leading the crew around was that Ferrari, the white Ferrari, that was so impressive at Brands Hatch for the AF Corsa entry of Pierre-Alexandre Jean. And I fancied in the background, no, I thought I saw the Boguslawski car. I did not.
There you see, across the racetrack, that's the return leg all the way back down to that final chicane. So there is something in the middle of the track. It could be, it's not carbon fiber, it's too big for that, but it could be, I mean, how far does your imagination stretch? Could that be a fishing hook to catch a great white shark? There's not many great white sharks in the middle of France as far as I'm aware.
No, so it's probably the wrong call on the tackle front, but that would explain that the red was thrown again after the 7 cars went out, because getting one driver to fail to get the lights right at pit exit would be strange enough, but to get up to 7 cars going out on the circuit. So it looks so it's flicked to go green and then back to red. And now let's find out what it is. I don't think it's for catching great white sharks.
I think that could well be what they call a shipyard screwdriver, which in layman's terms is a hammer.
A socking great hammer. So here come the cars back around looking for the signal at the top. We've stopped it again at 7 minutes 17. Remember, the first red flag stoppage left 8 minutes 23 on the clock. So then he just got out onto the track. It was thrown again. Now, what will they do? Come back into the pits?
They have to come back into the pit lane. Regulation stipulates that under red flag conditions, everybody must return at 50 kilometers per hour back into the pit lane.
But what that do? All of these drivers wanted to get out early in the train of cars. Now, unless the others hang back in front of their garages, they'll be at the back of the queue, which will probably eliminate one of their flying laps. Well, the numbers are going down.
Bruce, all I can assume is that the hammer in the middle of the track is the result of it being left in a car that went back out on track. I don't think it was a spectator throwing it at anybody on the track. But I wouldn't want to be quoted at that.
No, let's hope not. So, maybe the car that had the greatest advantage is the one now sitting at pit exit. Nicolas Scholl, Attempto Racing Audi. He could be the first driver out onto the session when it gets going at the third time of asking. So that's 2 red flags. For everyone else, they're going to be on their toes, ready to join this crew to get out on the track. And you're going to have to hope the fastest drivers do not have some of the slower ones in front, because traffic around here, even though there's great width on the circuit at Magny Cours, could still be a big problem for the quick
So
ones.
the out lap is going to take probably about a 1:45 if you get on with the program. So you take a minute 45 off that, let's bring it down to say 5.5 minutes. And then you've got arguably 2 flying laps. And then you start your third flying lap, at which point most likely the checkered flag will be out.
So the first driver back onto the circuit is the driver who's third on the charts. We had that late flurry just before the first red flag. That's why we had the Ferrari of Pierre-Alexandre Jean going up to fifth. I don't think we even mentioned Nicolas Scholl slotting himself in just a whisker down on Simon Gachet's time, but they need to find more than a third of a second. Half a second is probably going to be required. But then again, what's Charles Weert's going to do? 1 minute 36.5 seconds so far. If he moves that down, of course, then it's a moving target for everyone else.
So everybody's got to get a bit of a hurry on here now. We've got 6.5 minutes remaining, and they've still got to complete their out lap before they can start going on to their first flying lap. As we mentioned earlier, Thomas Drouet is the quickest of all the Mercedes, currently 6th quickest in the 87 on a 1:36.975. But he's a little too close to the tail of the Audi. And the Audi needs to either step aside Nicolas Scholl and let the Mercedes go through.
Which he won't do. He's at the front of the queue. He's going to stay there.
Or Drouet gets his elbows out and starts being a bit sort of muscular and can I force my way past? But look, the Audi's weaving around trying to get tire temperature, but in the process denying Drouet the opportunity to get through. And one might think that was that fair from the Audi driver, or is that just how it is on an out lap?
Well, if I was in the Mercedes, I'd be hanging back a bit. You're doing no favours to yourself being so close behind. You're not going to be using a slipstream on feels because you wouldn't be able to overtake. Now he's dropped back. He's got the message coming down towards the end of the lap to Virage du Lycée. Oh, hang back. Oh, doesn't want to turn in, does it?
Didn't turn in. The reason we saw Nicolas Scholl weaving around was to try and get tire temperature, particularly into the front tires in his Audi. And even with all that weaving, he didn't get it. Now, goes into Grand Curve. This is the corner we saw Valentino Rossi get it all wrong, and again look at the Audi running wide, running 2 wheels off the track, and he's got no front end grip right now.
But he kept it on the track, and it was the exit of that long corner at Estoril where Oliver Wilkinson unfortunately went off in the Jota McLaren yesterday. That is not taking any further part in the meeting, but Nicolas Scholl somehow hung on. But how much did he compromise his exit speed from Estoril? That's the big question. Looking to see who else is starting to make a move. It'll be on the end of this lap, leading on to the next lap, we start to see the sector times trying to improve. They're still trying to push to get the heat into their tyres, but the clock is counting down under 5 minutes until the checkered flag will be flown.
Interestingly, Thomas Drouet dropped back. Their respective first sector times were within 1/10 of a second of one another, but the Audi was the fractionally quicker of those 2 cars. So Drouet, having dropped back, it hasn't so far in this lap benefited from as they come up now to complete sector 2, and look and see the speeds 36.9 for Drouet, not for Scholl, and whereas Drouet 36. Well, again, marginally to the advantage of the Audi.
But Nicolas Scholl has obviously abandoned this lap. He's still weaving, still trying to get heat into the tyres. His cornering angle of the first few turns convinced him there's more to come. Wait for it. Bring the tyres up to temperature. Now, the exit from this is the penultimate corner. How hard is he going to rattle over the curbs onto what will be his flying lap? 3 minutes, 50 seconds remain.
He had a little bit more bite as he came to complete that lap and go on to another one. In the meantime, just seeing on screen Aurélien Panis on his lap, personal best in sector 1. So Panis down in 9th position, and Eddie Cheever even in the Mercedes also a personal best, fractionally slower than Panis, as we see Panis coming up through, and that's the exit of the Imola chicane, but down 2/10. So all the good hard yards. Look how wide he runs on the exit of Chateau d'Eau. So time just evaporating as he tries to close down on the Ferrari, which is Pierre-Alexandre Jean, running in 5th quickest so far.
Right, another person for whom time is evaporating is Gerhard Theresa, his GSM Nova Marine Lamborghini, sitting still in the pits. He's penultimate position. He's not likely to improve a lot anyhow, so maybe he's just backed out of it. But who is making the move? Certainly Aurélien Panis making a great stab at it in the number 25 Audi, pushing hard. Nicolas Scholl, don't forget, he was the one at the front of the queue, still 3rd fastest. He was the one that abandoned the previous lap, but he's definitely picking up the pace this time.
So Jim Pla has just demoted Aurélien Panis. Panis had gotten up to 7th position, now back down to 8th because the 88 Mercedes of Jim Pla has taken away that 7th place. Again, Nicolas Scholl running, lots of Audis running very, very wide up at the top of the Chateau d'Eau and the run down the hill. That middle sector time, again, you can see shaving or time added, not really maintaining that middle sector pace.
Well, he's fallen down to 4th place because Gilles Magnus in number 26 has gone up to the 2nd position on the chart, just 0.221 of a second down on Charles Wirtz. Going along, pacing it. Thomas Drouet now takes the best of the Mercedes from 6th up to 2nd place. He's 0.179 of a second down on Charles Wirtz. We have 2 minutes remaining. Here is Drouet pushing on, looking very positive.
Very quick as he came in the transition from Grand Curb into the Estoril, maybe ran a little bit wide as he sort of tried to carry that speed through. So another car directly ahead of him was one of the Audis. That kicked up the dust at the exit of Estoril. So there it is. Drouet, can he maintain this lap, that first sector time? Not a personal best, therefore not an improvement.
A lot of drivers setting sector improvements. It's about knitting them all together as Valentino Rossi's car is flat-bedded off in the background. Where's Timo Boguslawski? Don't forget he was in the top 4. Then when the stoppage came, he'd fallen down to, I think, 10th or 11th. He's now fallen to 13th, but the clock is not his friend. It's ticking away. Oh, very wide line there from Aurélien Panis. All 4 wheels off the circuit on the entry to Grand Cours.
So this was going to be the last lap everybody will have because we've just got a minute now remaining. So Thomas Drouet, his personal first and second sector times, you can see, are down. So I mean, I suspect he might as well just back out of it now and think about maybe having one. He'll get across the start-finish line before the flag comes out. But whether he considers there's enough life bite in the tire or not, only he will know. Simon Gachet, personal best, fastest middle sector. Where did Simon Gachet get all that time? Currently in 4th position.
Certainly was. Don't forget, early in the session, he was 2nd on. When you get an interruption like a red flag, we've had 2. It can really stop the flow, but Simon Gachet has had great success here before. He shared with Stephen Pallette when they won as a Silver Cup pairing 2 years ago. Now, Timo Boguslawski has woken up, down in 13th position. Certainly he wouldn't be accepted. Welcome back in the garage by Raffaele Marcello if he stayed down there, but he won't. He'll be moving up. But how far will Simon Gachet move? Will he go to the top? Target time, he's beaten it by 0.2 of a second, 1 minute 36.322. But will it be enough? Here comes the 89 Mercedes. John, talk it to the end of the lap.
Coming down the hill, down into that final chicane, a little bit of a frustrating corner. Nevertheless, make sure you get the nose tucked in, don't let it run wide. Manages to get through there, not maybe as best he could do, but might be good enough to take provisional pole with the flag out now.
Okay, lost a little bit at the end of the lap. I thought he'd get to 2nd, but he ended up in 4th place. That suddenly became 5th place because Simon Gachet, 1 minute 36.322. Can anybody take the checkered flag without Charles Wirtz 2nd? Number 2 seconds places for them at Brands Hatch. Dries Vanthoor, he only cheers up when they get pole, but 2nd place here in a troubled session, not too bad. But that was a fabulous lap from Simon Gachet.
Outstanding. Another great lap is by the 53 Ferrari Pierre-Alexandre Jean. We haven't seen an awful lot of the Ferrari, but he's got that car onto the provisional 2nd row of the grid. As we look into the WRT garage, and they're looking to see, well, where did Charles Vert? There's the, well, down. In fact, it's down because the 26 Audi has just managed to eclipse that. So Ferrari will be still on the 2nd row of the grid, but instead of being behind the pole sitter, they'll be behind Charles Vert.
Well, there we are. Simon Gachet should be very pleased. It's so difficult when you get a stoppage in a second, and the drivers, surprisingly, took a while to get heat in their tyres in that final, what was it, 7 minutes, 17 seconds. A lot of that gobbled up with their outlap, but Simon Gachet, always strong at Magny Cours, goes top. But hats off to Pierre-Alexandre, to Magnus, who came round third fastest. But in terms of Silver Cup, Gilles Magnus fastest in that. And that's for the young guns. He's third fastest overall, just 0.3 of a second down on Simon Gachet. Best in Pro-Am, down in 19th overall. Miguel Ramos, we hadn't really talked too much about him. He's in the 188, which is one of the two Garage 59 McLarens. So the Portuguese driver, great success in this series in recent years, and Fanatec GT is a place he loves to do his racing, and takes the Silver Cup honours, down in 19th, just ahead of Patrick Krapinski. So it's McLaren for McLaren in the Pro-Am class.
But the reality is the top three are an Audi lockout. There you can see them.
So very close indeed at the end. Might have been closer had there not been the red flags, but certainly for Simon Gachet, he worked that very well. His teammate Christopher Haas will be delighted with that time, as will the team, Trezor by Car Collection. Charles Weerts looked as though he'd done enough in the end. That brilliant lap by Gachet just toppled him. Gilles Magnus, the young Belgian, coming as the top runner in the Silver Cup class, just 0.3 of a second down. That was very meritorious. And Pierre-Alexandre Jean showing again why the AF Corsa Ferrari is a real challenger. Already one win in the bag in the opening race at Brands Hatch. Very tight at the top. Thomas Drouet, the best of the Mercedes, in 5th overall, just ahead of the Mercedes that's normally top, and that was the 89 of Timo Bogoslawski. So some great runs, but it was about keeping your cool and managing your tyres and making a space in the traffic, John, to put those quick times in.
Yes, and again, in the case of the 89 Thomas Bogoslawski, it looked to me as if he'd done all the good work in the opening two sectors, but didn't quite have enough left to nail that time to put the 89 Mercedes slightly further forward than the current third row start position it'll have this evening.
Well, very, very busy at the top of the table there. And there were some other drivers who ended up way down the order. Matthias Drudy in 13th overall. But let's hear from Simon Gachet's teammate, and that in the car in number 11 is Christopher Haas.
Christopher, I don't think we could ask you to control that smile if you can't at all. That was a great result right at the last minute.
Yeah, this is it's really the best thing what could happen today. I mean, Simon Gachet, we call him Mr. Gadget. He's a French guy, and I think as a French guy, having the pole position in his country on his home track, it's just fantastic.
And historically, he's always performed very well here, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's not the first pole position for him, so I hope that I still can learn something for tomorrow. But yeah, it will be tough, so keep the fingers crossed for a nice race.
Absolutely, I think it's going to be an Audi dominant weekend.
Well, looks like we are quite strong here.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
So, smiles all round, but certainly for the Audi crews, it looked very good indeed. But just to show how competitive Dries van Toor, second place just wasn't enough. He was cross, but it was advantage Audi. 20 minutes for the first of the two qualifying sessions. This is the one that sets the grid for tonight's race. Scramble onto the track, make your space, get the heat in the tyres, and start to wind it up. It was program as normal. And early on, Gilles Magnus, the number 26 Audi, looking very good indeed. The young Belgian. The number 12 Audi also really getting a move on. That was Matthias Drudy as expected. But then, of course, the 32 car from Team WRT, never slow. And Charles Weerts getting that to work. Timo Bogoslawski, this car was fastest in the two practice sessions. He moved towards the top. And then the number 11 Audi, Simon Gachet, went faster and faster. There were cars going off the circuit. That was a one for Jim Pla, but that didn't lead to any problems. But unfortunately for Valentino Rossi, he certainly was in the walls and into the tyre walls. That was down at Estoril. That brought out the red flag. That's the view from on board. He spun it round through the gravel and then a side-on impact over and out for the crew. Then, of course, it was scrambling back onto the circuit. With 7 and a bit minutes remaining, do not interrupt another car, do not obstruct, wind up the car, get the heat in the tyres. And that was Nicolas Scholl just in front of Thomas Drouet, slightly holding himself up. But then it was the turn of the 26 car, the Audi that would end up on pole position. And it was a great job